Hey everyone, let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to age gracefully, while others don't? Or why some folks get sick more often than others, even when they seem to do everything right? The answer might be hiding in something called free radicals, and today, I'm going to show you exactly how to fight them with 4 specific foods that science has proven actually work. Now, I'm not talking about some trendy superfood nonsense. These are backed by real medical studies with real numbers. So if you're in your late 20s or 30s like me, this is exactly when we need to start paying attention, because the damage from free radicals is happening right now, whether we feel it or not. Before we dive into the foods, let me explain what we're actually fighting here. Free radicals are basically unstable molecules in your body that are missing an electron. Think of them like that friend who's always trying to borrow money because they're broke. Free radicals go around stealing electrons from your healthy cells, and when they do that, they damage your DNA, your proteins, and pretty much everything that keeps you functioning properly. Now here's the thing. Your body naturally produces these free radicals during normal metabolism, especially when your mitochondria are working hard to produce energy. It's unavoidable, but the problem starts when you have too many of them, which leads to what scientists call oxidative stress. And oxidative stress has been linked to practically every major disease you can think of, from cardiovascular disease and cancer to diabetes, and brain disorders like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. So how do we fight this? That's where antioxidants come in. Antioxidants are like the heroes of the story, because they can donate an electron to these free radicals without becoming unstable themselves. They basically calm them down. And the 4 foods I'm about to share with you are loaded with these protective compounds. Food number 1, berries. Let's start with berries, and specifically blueberries, because the research on these is absolutely fascinating. Blueberries contain something called anthocyanins, which are the compounds that give them that deep blue-purple color. And these anthocyanins are incredibly powerful at neutralizing free radicals. Here's what the science actually says. A systematic review looked at 28 randomized controlled trials, and they found that about 32% of oxidative stress biomarkers showed statistically significant beneficial results from berry consumption. Now, you might think 32% doesn't sound that impressive, but here's the context. These were measuring very specific blood markers in people who were already relatively healthy. The fact that we can measure any improvement at all is pretty remarkable. But it gets better. Research has shown that berry anthocyanins can trap reactive carbonyl species, scavenge free radicals, and even reduce the harmful effects of advanced glycation end products. For those of you who don't know, glycation is when sugar molecules bind to proteins in a way that damages them, and it's heavily linked to neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. In studies, berry anthocyanins, at just 100 micrograms per milliliter, inhibited the formation of those harmful protein tangles that are characteristic of Alzheimer's disease. The recommended amount is pretty simple. About 1 cup of fresh blueberries per day, or roughly 30 grams of blueberry powder, if you're using supplements. And interestingly, frozen berries work just as well, because the anthocyanins remain stable even after freezing. Food number 2, dark chocolate. I know what you're thinking. Chocolate? Really? But hear me out, because the research on dark chocolate is solid, and there's a very specific reason why it works. Dark chocolate comes from cacao beans, and cacao is one of the richest sources of compounds called flavonoids, specifically a type called Flavanols. The most important one is called epicatechin. Now, there was a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled study, which is the gold standard of research, that looked at what happens when people eat flavonoid-rich dark chocolate daily. Here's what they found. 21 healthy adults were divided into 2 groups. One group got high flavonoid dark chocolate with 213 milligrams of procyanidins and 46 milligrams of epicatechin. The other group got low flavonoid chocolate as a control. After just 2 weeks, the high flavonoid group showed significant improvement in something called flow-mediated dilation of the brachial artery, which is basically a measure of how well your blood vessels can expand and contract. This is crucial because poor vascular function is one of the earliest signs of cardiovascular disease. And the best part? These effects are dose-dependent, meaning they work in a predictable way. A review found that eating around 45 grams of chocolate per week lowered cardiovascular disease risk by 11%, But consuming more than 100 grams per week didn't provide additional benefits. So there's a sweet spot, literally. Now, here's the critical part. You need to eat dark chocolate with at least 70% cacao content. Milk chocolate doesn't work because it has far fewer flavonoids. And you don't want to go overboard because chocolate still has calories and sugar. About 40 to 50 grams of high-quality dark chocolate per day seems to be the optimal amount based on the research. Food number 3, green tea. Green tea has been used medicinally in Asia for thousands of years. But only recently have we understood exactly why it's so effective. The magic ingredient is called EGCG, which stands for epigallocatechin galate. And this compound is frankly incredible. Studies using something called the oxygen radical absorbance capacity test have shown that EGCG can scavenge multiple types of free radicals, including superoxide radicals, hydroxyl radicals, and peroxyl radicals. But here's where it gets really interesting. Recent research has actually turned our understanding of EGCG on its head. There's a study published in the journal Aging that showed EGCG doesn't work exactly the way we thought. Instead of simply neutralizing free radicals directly, like a traditional antioxidant, EGCG actually works more like a vaccine. It creates a small, controlled amount of oxidative stress in the short term, which then triggers your body to ramp up its own natural defense systems. It activates genes that produce enzymes like superoxide dismutase and catalase, which are your body's endogenous antioxidants. So instead of just fighting free radicals for you, EGCG teaches your body to fight them better on its own. The practical benefits are substantial. Multiple observational studies have found that higher intake of green tea is linked with reduced risk of age-related brain decline, Alzheimer's disease, and Parkinson's disease. And while the data is still being refined, the pattern is consistent across different populations. And one more tip. Japanese green teas tend to have the highest catechin content, while black tea has much less, because the fermentation process destroys most of the beneficial compounds. Food number 4, Brazil nuts. Now we're getting to something really specific. And this one is all about a trace mineral called selenium. Brazil nuts are absolutely loaded with selenium, more than any other food on the planet. And selenium is essential for fighting oxidative stress, because it's a key component of an enzyme called glutathione peroxidase, which is one of your body's most important antioxidant systems. A systematic review and meta-analysis looked at 8 randomized clinical trials, and the results were striking. Brazil nut consumption significantly increased blood selenium levels, and the statistical measure was huge, with a standardized mean difference of 6.93. That's a massive effect size in medical research. But more importantly, they found a significant positive effect on glutathione peroxidase activity, with a standardized mean difference of 0.53. This means the actual antioxidant machinery in people's bodies was working better after eating Brazil nuts. Here's a really interesting study. 37 severely obese women who were selenium deficient ate just 1 Brazil nut per day for 8 weeks. That's it, 1 nut. At the end of the study, not only was their selenium deficiency completely corrected, but their HDL cholesterol, that's the good cholesterol, increased significantly, and 2 measures of cardiovascular risk, the Castelli indices, both improved substantially. We're talking about measurable improvement in cardiovascular health from eating 1 nut a day. Now here's the catch with Brazil nuts. They're so rich in selenium that you can actually get too much. If you eat them every day in large quantities, the recommended daily intake of selenium is about 55 micrograms, and a single Brazil nut can contain anywhere from 96 to 400 micrograms, depending on where it was grown. So the recommendation is pretty clear. 1 to 2 Brazil nuts per day is ideal. That's enough to get the benefits without risking selenium toxicity, which can damage your liver and cause other problems. So there you have it. 4 foods that are scientifically proven to fight free radicals and protect you from oxidative stress. Blueberries with their anthocyanins, reducing cardiovascular disease risk by 11%. Dark chocolate improving blood vessel function with just 45 grams per week. Green tea that trains your body's own antioxidant systems to work better. And Brazil nuts delivering selenium that powers your glutathione peroxidase enzyme system. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.